There is a kind of person who moves quietly through the world. Not because they are afraid of noise, but because they hear too much of it already. They listen more than they speak. They notice the pause before someone answers, the way a smile lingers a second too long, the meaning hidden behind ordinary words. These are deep thinkers. Deep thinkers live slightly beneath the surface of life. While most people experience moments as they happen, deep thinkers experience moments and their echoes. They don't just hear a sentence. They hear the intention behind it. They don't just see an event. They feel how it connects to the past, the present, and all the possible futures it might create. To the outside world, they may seem quiet, distant, even slow. But inside, their mind is always moving. A deep thinker doesn't rush to answer questions. Not because they don't know what to say, but because they know there are many possible answers, and they're searching for the most honest one. They weigh words carefully. They understand that language shapes reality, and once something is said, it cannot be taken back. Psychologically, deep thinkers tend to have high levels of introspection. They don't just think about what happens around them. They think about what happens inside them. They ask why their emotions rise when they do. Why certain memories return uninvited. Why some moments stay vivid while others fade. This constant inner observation is connected to strong activity in what psychologists call the default mode network. It's the part of the brain that becomes active during reflection, imagination, memory, and creativity. For deep thinkers, this network rarely goes quiet. Their mind is always weaving connections, comparing experiences, searching for meaning. That's why a simple walk can become a philosophical journey. A tree isn't just a tree. It's a symbol of time, resilience, growth, and fragility. A conversation isn't just an exchange of words. It's a study of emotion, intention, and subtext. A silence isn't empty. It's full of questions. But this depth comes with a cost. While others move through life reacting, deep thinkers observe. They pause. They notice details. They think before they speak. And sometimes, by the time they're ready to respond, the moment has already passed. So they stay quiet. And that silence is often misunderstood. People may assume they are uninterested, disconnected, or emotionally distant. But the truth is the opposite. Deep thinkers care deeply. They just don't express it loudly. They crave meaningful connection. Surface-level conversation feels exhausting to them. Small talk feels like swimming in shallow water when they know there is an entire ocean below. They want conversations about fears, dreams, contradictions, and truth. They want to understand the architecture of the human heart. Because to a deep thinker, understanding is a form of intimacy. Yet the same depth that allows them to understand others also turns inward. And this is where overthinking begins. Deep thinkers replay moments again and again. They analyze tone, timing, facial expressions. They wonder what someone really meant. They question whether they said too much or too little. Not because they are insecure, but because they see nuance everywhere. In psychology, this is linked to metacognition, the ability to think about one's own thinking. Most people visit this space occasionally. Deep thinkers live there. They watch their thoughts as they form. They question their own motives. They examine their emotions like maps, trying to understand where each feeling comes from and where it leads. This makes them highly self-aware. But it also makes them vulnerable to self-doubt. Because when you see everything clearly, you also see your flaws in high definition. A deep thinker doesn't just ask, "What do I want?" They ask, "Why do I want it? Where did this desire come from? What would it change about me? And what would it cost?" They analyze love, ambition, fear, and memory until these invisible things almost feel tangible. But in doing so, they sometimes forget the simple act of being. They forget that not everything needs to be understood. Some things are meant to be felt. That's why deep thinkers are often drawn to solitude. You'll see them walking alone with headphones on, sitting quietly in cafes, staring out of windows. Not because they are lonely, but because solitude is their native language. It's where their thoughts can breathe. It's where the noise of the world finally fades enough for them to hear themselves. Inside, their emotions move like deep water. Calm on the surface, powerful underneath. They might seem composed, but their feelings run strong and complex. They experience what psychologists call emotional complexity, the ability to feel multiple emotions at once. Joy mixed with sadness. Hope intertwined with grief. Love carrying the awareness of loss. To a deep thinker, emotions are not good or bad. They are information. Fear reveals what matters. Sadness points to value. Joy highlights what deserves protection. This emotional depth also means they remember differently. They don't store memories as simple events. They store them as ecosystems of feeling. A song doesn't just remind them of a time. It brings back a version of themselves that no longer exists. That's why nostalgia hits deep thinkers harder. They don't just miss the past. They understand what was lost when time moved forward. This way of processing life is tied to depth processing in psychology, encoding experiences with rich emotional and symbolic meaning. It's why deep thinkers feel life so intensely, and why they struggle to let things go. They often engage in existential thinking, not just questions about their own life, but about life itself. Time, purpose, morality, consciousness. Questions without easy answers. This is what separates deep thinking from simple overthinking. Overthinking worries about outcomes. Deep thinking questions reality. It's awareness, not anxiety. But awareness has a paradox. The same mind that can see patterns everywhere can also create patterns that don't exist. When you connect everything, you risk connecting too much. Silence can feel meaningful when it isn't. Small moments can turn into endless philosophical puzzles. It's like using a microscope that's too powerful. You start seeing details that were never meant to be examined so closely. Still, this depth is also where creativity is born. Many of history's great thinkers, artists, and innovators were deep thinkers. They saw invisible connections. They questioned assumptions. They looked at problems from angles others ignored. Because when you never stop asking why, you eventually find answers others miss. But modern society doesn't always reward this. We live in a world that values speed, certainty, and constant output. Reflection looks like hesitation. Silence looks like weakness. Complexity looks like confusion. So deep thinkers often learn to hide. They nod along. They smile politely. They keep their real thoughts to themselves. And when everyone leaves, that's when their real conversation begins, inside their own mind. This creates a quiet loneliness. Not because they lack people, but because they crave depth. And depth requires vulnerability. Deep thinkers don't open easily. They observe. They test. They wait. And when they finally let someone in, they do it fully. They don't love halfway. They don't connect casually. Their relationships are intentional, intense, and meaningful. But this openness can also hurt. Because deep thinkers often assume others operate from the same depth. They expect honesty, consistency, emotional truth. When reality doesn't match that expectation, the pain cuts deep. Not because they are fragile, but because everything matters to them. A small betrayal feels enormous. A small kindness feels life-changing. That's the double-edged sword. They cannot numb themselves. They feel everything. They notice when energy shifts. When laughter fades too quickly. When words don't match actions. They see what could have been, not just what is. This makes presence difficult. Their mind exists across timelines, replaying the past, analyzing the present, imagining countless futures. It's exhausting, but it's also where their resilience comes from. To a deep thinker, even suffering contains meaning. Pain becomes information, a lesson, a clue. But perhaps the hardest lesson they must learn is when to stop thinking. When to let go of the need for answers. When to accept that some questions don't have solutions. Because peace doesn't live in certainty. It lives in presence. The most balanced deep thinkers learn to anchor themselves. Through creativity, mindfulness, service, expression. They learn that thought is meant to enrich life, not replace it. That depth isn't about drowning in ideas. It's about seeing clearly enough to float. You can often recognize a deep thinker by their pauses. That space before they speak isn't hesitation. It's precision. They are listening to words, tone, silence, emotion. They communicate with care because they understand the weight of language. People may call them complicated. But what they really are is aware. They see fear hiding behind anger. Love hiding behind pride. Pain hiding behind jokes. Once you see that, it's hard to unsee it. Deep thinkers remind us of something important. That life isn't meant to be skimmed. That silence can be sacred. That questions are not weaknesses. If you are a deep thinker, don't apologize for your depth. Don't shrink your thoughts to fit smaller spaces. The world needs minds that can slow it down. Because in a shallow world, depth is its own kind of light.